Well, it's here, the most Mariah Carey time of the year, with wreaths, stockings, trees inside your house, gift giving, and the invitation of that one fat guy on Oh, my mistake, Coca-Cola. That's right, it's Christmas Day. A time for merriment, cheer, family, and these other things I'm told is mostly about. And in my home, it's mostly a time for watching movies to commemorate the time of year. Because unlike Thanksgiving, where it's honestly kind of hard to find a film related to the holiday, Christmas has the exact opposite problem, with hundreds of contenders to choose from. From the greats like It's a Wonderful Life, Home Alone, or The Santa Claus, to the lesser beloved but still solid ones like The Night Before,
We did not kill Jesus!
Klaus, and The Muppets A Christmas Special, which is where I think we're gonna gear this festive discussion towards. Since we are still kind of new around these parts, I think in our formative years, it might be more fun to talk about a movie that doesn't get enough love on this platform. And what's a holiday without a little violence to celebrate the occasion? That's right, today we're going to be talking about the 2022 classic starring David Harbour, Violent Night. A movie where Santa is coming to town, and boy is he pissed. But this isn't the first time that we've seen Santa in an action movie. In fact, you could kind of make a whole genre of movies with action and thrills around the holiday. But something about this one feels a little different. So that's what I want to talk about today. What is A Violent Night? How does it compare to other blockbusters centered around this most merry of days? And why do I think it manages to capture the spirit of Christmas in a way not many others can claim? So let's hear those sleigh bells jingling and remember to check that list twice to... Hold on, why is it all redacted? And let's discuss. So Violent Night was directed by Tommy Wirkola, who you might know for such classics as Dead Snow, Hansel and Gretel, Witch Hunter, and Spermageddon? I need to find God. Starring David Harbour as jolly old Saint Nick. Only this go around, he's not as jolly as one might hope. Because after doing this job for what must have been thousands of years, he, like many people these days, is losing hope in the future of humanity. With children all over the world becoming greedy and concerned with useless crap that doesn't even bring them joy, Santa's beginning to wonder, why does he even do this job? And how did things end up like this? Capitalism. The problem is capitalism. Quite obvious.
Pretty obvious.
And speaking of capitalists, on this evening that Kris Kringle claims will be his final night on the job, there exists a family on their own little private compound coming together to celebrate the season in the lap of luxury. When a few rotten Grinches straight off the naughty list decide to crash the festivities, all in the name of robbing these ultra-wealthy war profiteers while they're in their own home. But, to their surprise, at the same time they attempt to pull off their little caper, they are greeted by an unexpected, or at least to the non-believers, unexpected guest. And this is the setup that will lead to our action-packed blood and candy canes affair. And spoilers moving forward. So first off, I gotta praise the cast in this movie, as everyone in it does an amazing job bringing this wide range of personalities to life. The Lightstone family ranges from sensible and kind, to cutthroat and cold, and just downright stupid and egotistical. From Ava and Morgan, this idiot Nepo baby and her husband, a failed movie star, to the more down-to-earth and reasonable parents like Linda and Jason, oh hey, translucent, with of course the grandma Gertrude as the matriarch of the family. And even their kids have a fair share of work to do in this story. Bert and Trudy are also surprisingly well realized by the young actors in the role, and Trudy especially has a lot of work to do, considering she plays most out of any member of the cast, off of David Harbour's Santa Claus. And I gotta take a sec to praise how great of casting David Harbour is as the rose-cheeked bearded old man delivering presents every year. Because we've seen Harbour in a number of roles, and each time he demonstrates this level of everyman lovability, making it extremely easy to root for him as a protagonist. And this has skyrocketed his stardom into the stratosphere, which had me a little bit worried that he'd outshine the character he was playing. But luckily that's not the case here, and he manages to capture the character of Santa Claus in this extremely depressed and vulnerable state. Because as I said, normally the king of Christmas here wears a big old smile on his face as he's delivering presents to children. But this go around, he's beginning to lose the will to continue the good fight. And speaking of fight, Harbour is also a great choice for when the action starts to throw down and fists begin to go a-flying. So in addition to the wide range of emotional beats he's gotta hit, he also needs to make the action believable, and if you've seen any project he's been in since Stranger Things, you know that he's getting pretty good at this whole action man who's also down on his luck. From Hopper to Hellboy to Red Guardian, he's no stranger to action scenes, and he continues to shine in the parts where his stunt double isn't center stage. But what would a hero be without his villain? And that's where the talented John Leguizamo steps in as Jimmy Martinez, the man orchestrating this whole operation. Throw in a few goofy, memorable members of his gang and a bunch of disposable henchmen, and you've got yourself a recipe for a setup for an action-packed heist thriller. And as I said, this isn't the first time around we've ever seen Santa Claus get into a few bare-knuckle scraps with a couple members of the naughty list looking to make their mark by ruining Christmas. In fact, one movie in 1988 actually managed to create the mold from which a film like this was forged from. Yeah, I'm not gonna bury the lead much longer. Obviously, a bunch of you probably noticed the similarities between this film and Die Hard, and yeah, the film makes no pretenses that it's not aping off of this time-honored classic. From the heist setup from a bunch of ne'er-do-wells, possibly even more corrupt than the evil business people they're stealing from, to the lone one-man army gumming up the plans, to the hostages negotiating with their robbers, and even a person on the radio helping guide our hero to their inevitable encounter with the final boss. And the film has fun making references to other Christmas classics, things like Home Alone, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, A Christmas Story, and a handful of others. And a lot of other movies do their take on What If Die Hard but in some other location. Like with Olympus Has Fallen, What If Die Hard but in the White House. The Rock is What If Die Hard but in Alcatraz. Speed is What If Die Hard on a bus. And I'd say this movie is What If Die Hard but if it was a Christmas movie. And yeah, I know classic Die Hard is technically a Christmas movie, but isn't it just more fun to say it this way?
What's the matter with you?
Well, I'm gonna keep saying it. Hell, I'm gonna make it the name of this video. And if you got a problem with that, you can let me know in the comments. And also, like and subscribe while you're at it. Come on, it's Christmas. But this isn't the first time someone had the brilliant idea to take someone as wholesome as Santa Claus and gruff him up a little bit. Movies have been playing with the character of jolly old Saint Nick for decades. With things like Fat Man, where a kid on the naughty list hires a hit on Santa for revenge, or Bad Santa, where it's following one of the ones who works a terrible gig in a mall and ends up spreading misanthropy and cynicism in place of laughter and joy, or whatever the hell was going on with Red 1. There is a bit of humor in making Santa less wholesome and whimsical, and more like a cutthroat badass on a holy crusade. Only for that crusade to end up being delivering presents to children. But where a lot of movies to me get caught up in the irony of having Santa Claus kicking ass and doing things that would put you on the naughty list, what makes Violent Night different is that at the end of the day, it still never loses sight on who the character of Santa Claus is, while also managing to humanize the legend and maintain that sense of magic and wonder that's innate in the character. And that last part is pretty difficult, considering the fact that it is normal to want your character to go through an arc, and in these stories' cases, a lot of the time it's about understanding the true meaning of Christmas, which can be more and more difficult as this holiday gets overly commercialized. Hey guys, Editorial Pimp Up here. I almost just showed you that awful Christmas commercial that McDonald's AI generated, but I don't hate anyone here nearly enough to subject them to that kind of slop, so in place, here's the McRib. All too easy to fall into this nihilistic trapping that it feels like nothing really matters, and when you pull back the curtain behind Christmas, you realize that, yeah, a lot of the sinister forces that are causing the problems in our world do converge at this time of year. And yet, behind it all, at the core, there is still something magical about the season. Something that I don't think can just be taken away. And doing so by instead of following some kind of an Ebenezer Scrooge or something like this, instead they choose to get to the heart of the matter by centering the story around the big guy himself. And by placing it within the mold of a Die Hard-esque formula, it allows the story to have a really solid sense of perspective, giving us a clear image as to what in this world this Santa Claus is fighting, but also what he's working to protect. We get to see the good in Trudy, the bad in the family, and the naughty in the robbers. And how it really is about the family reconciling with their mistakes and ultimately learning to put their faith in the true meaning behind Christmas and helping Santa Claus combat these Christmas naysayers. Still would have been nice if maybe some of these war profiteers went to prison for their crimes, but maybe I'm asking too much. He really is fighting to bring Christmas joy to this one girl who, despite her rotten family, manages to stay on the nice list. And boy does this man fight, because not only does this premise lend itself to a sense of wonder, but also manages to deliver on the action. Being an R-rated movie, there isn't much holding back in what they're willing to show, from candy cane stabbings to men being chopped into mulch in a wood chipper, to my favorite action scene culminating in Santa using the star on top of a Christmas tree to stab a dude's eye out and then light his face on fire. They really do earn the violent part of their title, and it's all executed with a deft hand and a sense of style and creativity.
Santa's gonna eat through these guys like a plate full of cookies.
Showing the stabbing and carnage unfold, clearly framing it all without shaking the camera or doing anything stupid to try to obfuscate any less than stellar action work. They even make good use of Santa's mystical artifacts and the handful of powers he's got. Santa is, after all, something of a totem of the holiday, with abilities beyond mortal men. And the film adds a little bit of lore that Santa was once a violent warrior and marauder back in the day, so that contributes a bit to his prowess as a combatant. So he can do things like disappear up chimneys, pull gifts out of a bag, beat people to death with a big hammer, and seemingly take more damage than any average person should. He also has this really subtle ability to remember every single gift he has ever given. Meaning that not only does he know the people that he's up against, but literally every henchman that he's dispatching is someone he's had to put either on his naughty or nice list. And to no surprise, a lot of them didn't make the cut. It's kind of morbidly hilarious knowing that each one of these mercenaries responsible for dozens of war crimes and horrible acts were at some point kids who Santa may or may not have given presents to. He even uses this to get the upper hand on some of Jimmy's idiot crew members, causing them to question whether or not this reject mall Santa is the genuine article. And that provided setup for my favorite laugh in the whole movie.
Might be the real Santa.
She just said.
Just comedic gold. This in addition makes the conflict with the robbers all the more delightful, especially in the case of Martinez, who claims that his life was ruined by the holiday due to a misfortune that happened with his grandfather falling down a flight of stairs. And now, since the holiday is spoiled for him, he wants to do the same thing for everyone else. So not only is Santa fighting to protect the family and the one member of them who made the nice list, but also, in a way, he's fighting to save Christmas itself. Which, considering he is Santa Claus after all, does mean it's probably bad news for people looking to celebrate the holiday if he were to get murked by one of Blackwater's finest. But with the help of the little girl Trudy that I mentioned, Santa is able to corner the wannabe Hans Gruber and take him down once and for all in glorious bloody fashion, paying off that chimney teleporting ability with one final fatality. And though I really like the ending where Santa's reindeer show up after he's completed the fight, sort of signifying that this was all something of a test to reinvigorate the spirit of Christmas within him, the scene right before is a little bit melodramatic, considering the fact that he nearly dies, but then just a few seconds later gets up and dusts himself off. To me, it just feels like they could have executed this scene a bit more cleverly, and also them burning the money felt a little half-hearted, considering they didn't even destroy all of it, just a small piece. I'd say either commit and destroy the whole thing, or just forget it. The film honestly dances around the idea that the greed and want for more things is damaging the spirit of Christmas, and has trouble landing on a conclusion, so I feel like if you're gonna destroy some of it, just destroy it all, and maybe in a bit more of a spectacular way than just trying to create some fire to warm Santa. Maybe something like in order to save Trudy, the family needs to set off a bunch of fireworks, which perhaps was also where they were hiding all the bags of money, meaning that in order to save her, it all must go. I don't know, something like that would have just hit home a bit harder. Instead, we just kind of end up in this awkward middle ground. I mean, hell, the movie that this is aping off of, Die Hard, even that one managed to find a way to have a satisfying conclusion involving its money-grubbing businessmen by having John help Holly get the watch that the company gifted her
It's a Rolex.
off her wrist because Hans was holding on to it, and by removing it, they both leave behind him, the company tearing them apart, and this whole bloody evening, with one simple gesture. But my gripes with this movie are minimal, and the small-scale nature of the story means that they're able to deliver on the premise without feeling compromised or bogged down by their comparatively low budget of $20 million. And I know, 20 million should sound like a lot, right? Well, keep in mind, Red 1 cost 250 million, and let's just say money doesn't always buy quality. And even though it only returned 76 million worldwide, because of its low cost to make, it still did end up turning a profit in the end, thus seeming to earn it a sequel which will allegedly be coming out next year, but the way these things are made, we'll wait and see. But despite its admitted success and alleged sequel on the way, I still don't hear it talked about much in the conversation when referring to things to watch around the holiday. And I think that's a shame, because this movie really does capture the time of year, while also managing to play with the conventions and tropes that come with the genre of Christmas movies. And while I personally can't say if it holds a candle to that classic Die Hard, I do admire the approach it takes attempting to work within the framework, while also not being afraid to do its own thing in many aspects. I mean, I didn't see John McClane cracking skulls with a sledgehammer in his movie. So in conclusion, Violent Night is one that delivers on its promises, and manages to keep its goal and identity in sight, while also having a good time with the premise. An action-packed evening of terror and joy, laughter and murder, and a bag of useless crap with hardly anything in it that a warrior can use to beat a man to death with. And doing all this with a comparatively low budget, and setting it within a single mansion. And it's a movie I feel perfectly embodies the spirit of Christmas. So why don't you throw it on when you got the whole family together, and just slide it between something like Polar Express and Elf. You know, really throw those kids for a loop. Happy holidays, everyone. I'll see you on New Year. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you stuck all the way to the end, why don't you check out another one of our videos on screen now. And if you want to chat directly, come join our Discord, link in the description below.